Well, a major endorsement for Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. President Donald Trump appeared at their Valdosta rally tonight, calling for Georgia voters to ensure both senators return to Washington. 11 Alive's Shanu Hurd joins us live now at the state capitol with more from that event. Shanu?
Yeah, Republicans continue to bring in big names to Georgia to campaign for Senators Loeffler and Perdue. So today, Trump's visit comes less than 24 hours after Vice President Mike Pence was in Georgia, also doing the same.
Makes money.
Turning up the heat just 1 month until the Senate runoff elections, Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler were joined by President Donald Trump in Valdosta Saturday night.
We're gathered here tonight to ensure, a very important word, ensure, because these are two great people that I know so well and respected by everybody in Washington and beyond, that David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win the most important congressional runoff probably in American history.
Trump criticized Georgia's elections, pulling no punches against Governor Brian Kemp. The president falsely claimed the presidential election results in the state are rigged. He went on to say he hopes that doesn't happen in the runoff races in January.
Because at stake in this election is control of the U.S. Senate, and that really means control of this country. The voters of Georgia will determine which party runs every committee, writes every piece of legislation.
Meanwhile, Democratic opponents Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock pulled out all the stops in Conyers, campaigning Saturday side by side. They stressed the importance of this election and urging people to get to the polls next month.
We cannot be spectators to history. We have to make history together. Tell the folks in your circle that they must vote. They must vote like they've never voted before.
A similar message from both parties hitting the campaign trail hard as Georgia's Senate races become the center of attention nationwide once again. Yesterday, President-elect Joe Biden said he is also planning a visit to Georgia. However, his team has not said when that is going to be. So whenever we find out those details, we'll update you right here on 11 Alive. Natisha?